And we are live. What's going on out there, YouTube? This is SDL0320 representing JVS. So we are back for Infinity War. And I knew this was coming, but I did not prepare myself for what the movie would do to me, as well as everybody else here. I just want to announce some of these guys. What's going on, everybody?
Hello.
What's up?
What's going on? You want to announce your tags or your streams or whatever you're affiliated with?
Who's first? Everybody's like, who's first?
You might as well go, Patrick.
All right. I'm Patrick. I'm from Earth 2 Comicast with Mo Crosby and Lucas and Anthony Wiggins and all those guys. So yeah, I'm excited to be here with Sam. Last time we did this was Last Jedi, and it was an event. So
it was an event. So epic. It was so epic. Thanks for coming back, Patrick. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah.
My name's Tony. What's going on, guys? I'm a not so prominent member of Struggle Nation, which you guys may know of Echo Mog Media Group. Who I know actually Oxon through, and so I guess I'll be here representing Echo Mog and Struggle Nation today. I'll give you my tags and all that stuff later. I'm just here to talk about the movie and have some fun.
Yeah, I appreciate you for coming out, Tony.
Yeah, no problem.
Last but not least, these two guys.
It's 032's partner in crime. It's been a good Monday. I'm excited to say about this movie.
Yeah, that's Keaton. I know you guys can hear him as well, but right now his microphone is going back and forth. But Keaton is a part of JVS, official member of JVS. So appreciate you for coming, bro. Yeah, Keaton, you might have to rechange your microphone just because for some reason it's lagging. And last but not least, what's going on, bro? Akasan.
Yeah, sorry, it's me. I'm in a time warp right now. A lot of stuff is going on. It's pretty crazy. Just trying to get Red Dreaded Nation up in here. I can hear myself like crazy. Anyways, yeah, what's up? You guys know who I am. Give me some time to figure out my own stream. If anybody on the Red Dreaded Nation knows how to pump pump Sam's feed through my channel, let me know.
Yeah, as always, bro. It's an honor, and I appreciate you for coming, man. For sure, for sure.
My pleasure.
So let's break this down.
Hey,
Infinity War.
Real quick, can you guys hear me right now?
Ultron.
I said, can you guys hear me okay right now? I'm on to make sure y'all can still.
It's dubstepping a little bit on you, as far as the audio.
No strings now.
Ultron. We call it Transformers on the Struggle Nation server. We call them an Autobot.
Yeah, you might have to switch back to just the normal feed, Keaton.
It could be bandwidth too. Like you might want to turn off Wi-Fi on your phone and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it could be a number of different things, but yeah.
Gotcha.
But yeah, getting into this Infinity War, the culmination of 10 years. Was it like 19 films? Correct me if I'm wrong, including this one. And it's been an amazing ride. But I'm curious for all you guys, what were your anticipations going into this movie? And then how did it make you feel coming out of it? Because everybody seems like they have a different theater experience, but unanimously the same feeling coming out of it. So I'm just curious, anybody want to jump in and chime in? What was your thought process going in, and then how did you feel coming out?
I think I had impossible expectations going in. I think that I went in. I mean, Infinity Gauntlet is a milestone comic book in my life. Like, basically, the way I always describe it is pre-Infinity Gauntlet, I was just a guy who like watched Spider-Man cartoons or like Super Friends or whatever. I'm old. And then Infinity Gauntlet hit, and my best friend was reading it, and it was like the first comic book I really like went to a store and bought, and that was the beginning. Like for me, Infinity Gauntlet was the beginning of me as a comic book fan, basically. So the anticipation for me for this movie was immense, and I didn't think there was any chance it could match my anticipation. But I walked out really happy, like really happy, to the point that I'm kind of getting trolled by a lot of friends right now about how happy I am about this movie. So, yeah.
Nah, yeah, I appreciate that, man. I definitely I didn't have high expectations, but I felt like the weight, like one way or another, either this could be very bad or this could really accomplish something very deep.
If it was bad, it would cascade back to all the prior movies, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But I
That's
guess
true.
Tony, Keaton,
Yeah, I think walking into this, I'd be lying if I've said that I didn't have high expectations. Just if not alone, just based on the fact that just the standard that Marvel has set in this phase alone. I mean, we've had Black Panther, Spider-Man, Thor Ragnarok. Like, first of all, two of my favorite Marvel movies, Marvel movies and comic book movies, period, are Black Panther and Ragnarok. And I think that those have set such a high, like, just the standard of Marvel movies alone is just, there's no way I couldn't have high expectations walking into this, which is why it was all that much more impressive. Walking out, it surpassed my expectations. I didn't think it would be possible to have 40 stars of a movie and seem so cohesive and seem such, and just, you know what I mean? It was just a great experience. And yeah, I'm more than pleased. More than pleased.
Yeah, absolutely. Akasan, Keaton, what about you guys?
Go ahead, Keaton.
You want to go first to me?
No, go for it.
I went into it with low expectations because I just thought it was way too many people in one movie. I didn't think everybody was going to get a chance to shine, but they split it up in the right way that I think it really, really worked. I was actually shocked by how much I liked it. There were some things I would have liked better, but I absolutely loved it. I liked it a lot. I've seen it twice now.
Yeah. Nah, I definitely feel you on that, Keaton, because I was like, coming off the high of Black Panther and just how well that performed and the movement behind that, it was kind of just like, I felt like kind of underwhelmed going into Infinity War initially. But then it's like getting closer and closer and closer. And I was like, yo, this might be legit crazy, but how are they going to actually make it work tangibly? And I guess, Akasan, what did you take away going into it and then coming out? Because I know you were having all these different kind of difficulties trying to even get tickets to get this movie. So what was your experience going
fucking
in?
Annoying. Yeah. That shit was selling out in like 10 seconds. It was pretty bad. No, so for us, the tickets didn't go on sale until 3 days before the debut. So people had to arrange their schedules and everything based on the availability of the tickets and such. It was really annoying. But going in, everybody was really happy and smiles and excited at everything. Coming out first time around was like a funeral for everybody. Just people were not smart. People were just in shock. Like it really looked like a war just happened, or like there was like legitimately, like you saw the survivors of people that witnessed stuff but weren't lucky enough to die through it. And people are just in shock and awe, and like it's crazy how many people I had to actually come up to and just hug them after the movie. And this actually happened for me a third showing last night with someone who is a major, and I was worried about this, someone who is a major Loki fan, and she did the Infinity War challenge with me, and me knowing what happens in that movie the first 5 minutes, like she was a mess. She was a mess. She was so mad because she was like, the fucking the fucking title didn't even roll yet. And she was already bawling tears. And after the movie came up, she was like red faced, tears everywhere. I just had to come up to her and hug her like legitimately someone died. And it took her a while to recover. And she still messaged me like 10 minutes ago. She was like, wait, what if that was a double because he didn't turn blue? And no, maybe wait, what if Odin resurrects him? Like she's still struggling with the reality of what happened in that movie. So first impressions for me was I didn't really actually like the movie coming out of it the first time around. I was actually a little frustrated, but a little irritated in the fact that it wasn't a bad movie, but it was just a very I didn't think they were going to go. I didn't think they were going to go take it that way, and we will probably get into a little bit more. And the reason I was more shocked is they're taking some pretty big chances, and there's a lot of snotty comic fans I've been seeing online talking about, well, if you read the comic, you know what's going to happen, but we've never seen it actually executed in the movies. And the biggest difference between comic world and movie world is the fact that death doesn't mean anything. And I've said this many times, death doesn't mean anything in comics anymore because they always come back. So the average moviegoer, even for me, I'm watching all these people dying on screen. The back of my mind, I'm like, well, they can come back somehow, some way. But the average moviegoer might just be like, oh, well, fuck this. They just took out Spider-Man and Black Panther. Not the average moviegoer isn't reading all the rumors and speculations and interviews with the directors or what all the fan theories are. So a good amount of people really legitimately think that Black Panther and Spider-Man isn't coming back. And the key point here is in bringing them back. So it has to be executed well enough for the general audience to be on top of it, because otherwise all the realistic credibility and the groundedness that Marvel has been building for 10 years isn't going to mean shit if it's just like, oh, Thanos decided he made a mistake. Snap, everybody's back. Like, no.
Like it's one of those light switches with snap on and snap off.
Right. Like, no, if it's gonna be that easy, that's not gonna work. Yeah.
Edit, undo.
Yeah.
Right. Control Z.
Control Z. I have a lot of thoughts on that. I think I'll wait. I have a lot of thoughts on this.
Nah, that's actually perfect.
For external sources.
What's that?
I feel like everybody who is down on the movie because of things external to the movie itself, which I think is interesting.
In what way? What do you mean? In what way, though?
Well, basically what I mean is a lot of people are down on the movie because of what may or may not happen in the next movie, or because they know about press releases for future movies, or but you kind of, on some level, that's a big load to ask of a director, to not only be managing the story they are telling, but like the meta of the world around the story they are telling.
Right.
No, that's very perceptive, because one of the biggest questions I was going to talk about was the emotional impact.
Breaking news. Just breaking news. I just want to throw something out there really quick. Breaking news from the Star Wars crew. They just posted something on Twitter here that said, from a galaxy far, far away to Earth's mightiest heroes, congratulations on the biggest opening weekend in history, from Kathy and everyone at Lucasfilms.
Wow.
Talk about patting your own back.
And it's an image of Rey handing, I guess, her lightsaber now
to Tony
to Iron Man. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
8 minutes ago. Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, I just retweeted that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because it's like no matter what, Disney wins. But it's like they have two literal franchises competing. Even like Solo is gonna be competing.
Right?
But that's for another discussion.
Another letdown for later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. But as far as the emotional impact of the movie coming out of it, Akasan brought up a really interesting point. When he first left out of it, his perception was like, man, I don't know how I feel about this movie. It makes me feel kind of a way. In second round, looking at it again, he took it in a totally different way. When I left the movie the first time, I legit felt like for 2.5 hours I was in a fight, and like I just lost. Like everybody caught the fade. Everybody got beat down. And it was like, for the first time in a Marvel movie, I was like, tonally, I love this tone, because I love that there's a real effect that's happening. Even though perception-wise, I know from a comic book standpoint, they can all be brought back. In the next movie, most likely, they're definitely be brought back. You take all the different characters that are the future generation Avengers and kill them all. You know what I'm saying? Like, obviously they're gonna get brought back, but for those kids and for those people that are non-comic book readers, and you just sitting there watching people in the theater like emote, like either through non-verbals or through verbals, and it's just like that is something to impress upon the general public. And I think that for them to be able to do that, like there is weight there. And I never thought that I would see that in a Marvel movie. And I that's one of the biggest pluses for me, because I think we as comic book fans don't get it. Like a lot of people don't know what's gonna happen. Like I had one of my friends legit was like, how they gonna kill Black Panther? Like how they gonna do this? And I was like, dude, just hold on and wait. He's like, no, I'm done. I'm like, and he meant that. You know what I'm saying? It's interesting to watch it. And I was just curious from y'all's perception, and as most of you guys I know are comic book fans, but looking at the general audience and looking at the non-comic book people, how did it affect the atmosphere for you guys? I was just curious.
Can I go first on this one? So in my theater, I went to the very first showing in Greenville. So half the time, everybody in the theater is trying to be as extra as possible about things to show how big of a fan they are. And so, like, when we were in the theater, people would be yelling out, like, oh my God, no, and oh, the humanity and all this. It was absolutely ridiculous. It was like a New Orleans funeral. Like, it was insane. And it was so many people like just extra and like sad. And I felt out of place because I'm going to be honest with you. I felt no emotion in that movie except for happiness. Like Earth's Mightiest Heroes took the mightiest L's. Like, and I was happy. That's exactly what I wanted to happen the whole movie. And then at the end, kill scene, maybe it's because SEL's got me binge watching Game of Thrones over the past year, but I didn't feel shit. Like I was just like, all right, they disappeared. They turned to ash. Like whatever. Like it didn't even really look like they
whatever.
Yeah, honestly, it didn't look like they died. It kind of looked like when like they were going between dimensions in that bad Super Mario live action movie. Like that's what it looked like. I was like, they're not dead. They're just off somewhere. Like whatever. Like even when Stark got stabbed, I was like, didn't go through the heart. He's fine. It's cool. Like I didn't like the whole time. I've just become like
Gamora is bleeding green. She's fine.
I was just like I feel nothing. Like this is great though. Like I love that like every single Avenger like Thanos was like, yo, come run this fade, and they got handled. Like every single one of them, and I absolutely love that. But like the theater, most of the people in there, I feel like they were just being extra. I'm like, no one likes Gamora that much. Like, come on, like don't. I don't know. I had a lot of fun with it, but I feel like it was a lot. It was a lot of emotion, but part of me wonders how much it was just people being extra in my theater. That's Greenville.
I'd like to touch on the part where you said like you know there was only one emotion he felt, which was joy or happiness or whatever. Like I felt the exact same way. I only felt elation. I was very impressed during. Like I just felt like it was just a really great movie. A lot of my friends, particularly a lot of my friends cried at the end of this movie, and I didn't feel that. Maybe it's because I know, I know the comic. But now I just also if they were to just die and be gone, period. I also like stories like that just have stakes, like you know what I mean. And like I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry because some superheroes died. To be honest, there's real shit going on in the world, so I got real shit to cry about. But I'm not dissing anybody who cried at the movie. That's your thing. But like I didn't feel anything except I was just really fucking impressed that this movie came together like on some real shit. Like it was just like just a cohesive. It was just a great movie. I felt nothing but elation and just really I'm just enthused to see the next one, man. A lot. But yeah, that was just me. I felt one emotion. It was just joy, just like Keegan.
Emotion. Yeah, I was overwhelmed. I think that's the real question for me. Like, it's weird. The third time around was actually the smoothest transition or viewing for me. It actually went the fastest for me. Like the first time watching it, it might have something to do with the fact of the midnight showings. I've noticed when I see the midnight showing or the 3 a.m. showing, the movies feel a little bit longer for me. But like that first time felt like extensionally long. Like it was just a lot of stuff to absorb and a lot of things, and they were jumping from planet to planet and universe to universe. So I just felt tired. I felt really tired after the first viewing, and then the second viewing still felt a little long, but I was also waiting for my friend to show up so I could get him into the theater. So but the third time around actually went the smoothest, and I enjoyed it the most, and it was fairly good. But yeah, the first time around I just felt exasperated and had to process like everything that was going on in regards to the people dying. The only one that really I thought was interesting to me, even though I caught on to it fairly early, was with Gamora. I just liked it because I was like, God damn, they're really actually humanizing Thanos. And I was like, it was at that moment I was like, wait, whose movie? Like I was like, whose fucking movie is this now? It was really centered more or less around Thanos. And that one scene, like it's still fresh in my head from my viewing yesterday, but when she's falling and they zoom in on Thanos, they're giving him like the hero arc, kind of like like he really has this like Bruce Willis type look to him, crying and shit. And it was like who's like wait a second, are we supposed to be like, for me anyways, are we supposed to be really like getting behind Thanos at this point? Because I'm kind of like Team Thanos right now.
Okay, I'm glad I wasn't the only one. I was feeling like a monster watching that movie.
No, I think we were rooting for Thanos. I think we would have been, in a weird way, a strange disappointment in the movie had Thanos not completed his task.
I agree.
I think I would have left the movie feeling incomplete.
Yeah,
I agree. Shifted into protagonist mode for a bit. I was like, yo, like when he started crying at the Gamora scene, I was like, yo, why do I feel for Thanos right now? You got to do.
I want to touch on something real quick. I think Keaton might have mentioned it. I went to the first showing in New York City. I live in New York City. I went to the first showing on Thursday at 7 p.m. And it makes me want to go to the first showing of any like major movie that I want to see, because those people who show up, every joke was getting laughs. Every joke was getting cheers. You know what I mean? And I went to it, and then my friends of mine went to like other showings. They were like, you know, I realized that they didn't have the same experience that I did, just because of how much, you know, how enthused people are for that first fucking showing. I want to, like, you know what I mean? It just made me realize, I got to get that first ticket every time.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Same deal with me. The same deal with me. Like nobody laughed at the second showing, and my second showing was actually, was actually opening night, Friday night. 8 o'clock, and nobody, but again, this is an Asian, or I should say this is a Japanese crowd, so it was just the fact that we went to the it's called Roppongi. We went to the foreigner area of Japan, and we saw that midnight showing, so half the crowd was like foreigners. So I heard people crying. Like I was really legitimately concerned for Callie, because I knew she was sitting behind me and she's expecting, so I could hear like sniffling and people like bawling in the background, and I was like, holy shit. So yeah.
Oh yeah, dude, that first showing is always crazy, man. Like people started clapping when the Collector got on screen. I'm like, are you serious right now? Like y'all are excited for him? Like what? What is happening right now?
People even with the Wakanda music, dun, 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 like I heard people in the background whispering,
oh yeah, that definitely happened.
T'Challa. Like, holy shit.
Like a Lion King, like Jesus.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
No, that's really interesting, because I think that more people clapped throughout the movie than at the very end. Nobody in all two showings I went to clapped at the end. They just were complete silent, and like waited all the way until the very end credit, and then just walked out, like looking like zombies, like straight up. But nah, I think that I feel the same that way. Like this was Thanos' movie. And I know that we got Ace and got my man Blackwing in here. I want to give you time to shout y'all out. What's going on, you guys?
Yo, what's going on? Good.
I'm good, man.
Hey, what up?
Yeah, appreciate y'all for joining in, man. What was you guys' impression of Infinity War, and how did it make you feel coming out of it before we move on to the next thing?
I'll go first. When I first, the build up to Infinity War, I thought, everybody was overhyping the movie, because for me, I'm thinking it's a Disney movie first and foremost. So you can't expect certain things from a Disney movie. And then I watched the first 5 minutes of this movie and I saw Loki die. I said, oh, snap. I said, yo.
Those resurrections.
I said, yo, this is...
There will be no resurrection.
So at the end of the movie, I was just silent. I'm like, I didn't even remember there was an end credit. I'm not even waiting for the end credit. I'm like, yo, what kind of Disney movie, like, who allowed this to happen? So... I loved it. I thought it was great. 10 out of 10 for me. I thought it was the perfect way to do Avengers.
Hey, on a side note, just the whole thing about Disney, I noticed it the second time around when Thanos is going up against Doctor Strange. I like how Doctor Strange, when Thanos did some Kamehameha and shit, Doctor Strange turned that shit into the classic blue Disney birds flying back at Thanos, and I thought that was the funniest shit.
What about? I was thinking about when wasn't there a shout out to bats during that movie? Then something like something got turned to bats, right?
Yeah.
In my mind, I just want it to be a shout out to The Dark Knight, which would be the only other the other superhero movie that would rival this for me. But I'm just making that shit up in my mind, but whatever.
Yeah.
I thought I saw bats too, man.
It was definitely bats.
It was two different scenes. There was one where Thanos sent like the things that look like bats after Tony, and then there's the other Disney one that Akasan's talking about in the duel between Doctor Strange and Thanos. Yeah.
What was up with Thanos' obsession with bubbles though? Like he didn't just make it. He kept turning into bubbles, bro. Like I was like, you really like bubbles, don't you, Thanos?
He really like bubbles as a child. Thanos, baby Thanos.
Yeah.
Thank you for the $5, KY Han.
Oh my god.
Dude was on some like ultimate troll stuff that whole movie, man. Like he was messing with people on an emotional level. I loved Thanos, man, in that movie. Like by the end, I was like, yo, I'm digging this dude. Like, cause I've been waiting for all these heroes to take L's. Like every single movie, it's like at the very end. It's a Disney movie and everything's good. Oh yeah, we killed off one side character that no one cares about. But look, it's a baby Groot. Everything's great, right? Like they've done that for literally 20 movies straight. Right. And finally they ended one and they were like, yo, we're going Empire Strikes Back with it. You're gonna be sad for a little bit. You'll be sad. It'll be like a year, but you'll be sad a little bit.
Yeah.
And I was so happy because like Thanos legitimately went through Earth's mightiest heroes and was like, there's nothing mighty about you. From the very beginning, the first person he beat was the Hulk. That's when you knew.
Yeah.
That is when you knew it was going to be real. When that wizard dude was like, no. Let my man have his fun.
Yeah.
And Thanos was like, oh, we doing this? We do. My man was ducking and weaving like Dudley in Street Fighter. I was like,
like third viewing, I realized that after Thanos did one punch and that was it. Hulk was done. He punched him in the fucking neck. Hulk never got another swing in after that.
It was an ultra stun. It was an ultra stun. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Thanos knew how to fight.
I wouldn't come back after that shit too. That fucking the champion of Sakaar and shit for 2 years. Dude got punched in the neck and then he got slammed down, which I thought was also interesting. He got slammed down the same way that Hulk slammed down Loki and Thor and shit.
Like he put my man in like the Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant body slam. Like, dude, I caught so many WWE references in that whole movie. Like, first that body slam, and then like when Thor was holding the star open, he was hitting the Shawn Michaels with the leg out. Like, I was noticing. Like,
oh shit! I didn't even catch that.
I was noticing so much stuff. I was like, man, they're going all out for this.
Holy shit! I didn't catch that until right now. That's
He had
awesome.
the leg stuck out and everything. I'm like, I see Shawn Michaels.
Yo, and to be real, that was without the use of any of the stones, right? Because I don't think he was really using the power stone at that. I mean, he wasn't like using it in that fight. Yeah, that was just bare mano a mano. He is fucked up. Like he is hit him with the hands, baby. Like
Quick. Hold on, I want to answer this question really quick because a few people have been asking about this, but since I just got $10 for it, since Groot was one of the characters killed off at the end, does that mean that the handle to Thor's hammer is gone since it was part of Groot? That is not true because that is no longer an extension of Groot's body. He chopped it off, so that's it. Yeah.
I agree.
I just wanted to answer that real quick because a few people were asking about that, but nah, it's no longer part of Groot anymore. Yeah,
right.
That's a really good question. I was actually thinking about that myself because technically, you know, if he did die and there was the one piece left, could he regenerate himself? But nah, that makes the most sense. Blackwing,
technically he could though. Yeah, that's true. He could actually regenerate as well.
What's going on, bro? What did you think about the movie? What was your expectations, and how did you feel coming out of it?
All right. First of all, thanks for having me, Sam. I didn't think I was gonna make it. This movie.
Time stone.
This movie put me in emotional baggage. Like as soon as I walked out, I saw this movie at 7:30 a.m. Friday morning. Thank you, Mom, for able to find me a ticket. Thank you, Mom. Of course, reactions in the theater weren't drastic as most of them are because 7:30 a.m. in the morning. Who wants to be like reacting so crazy? I mean, I'll probably the only. I didn't yell or anything, but I was like showing emotions on like every single scene. And
I'm not the only one hearing jazz music. Right?
Yeah, I know.
Somebody with the jazz hands.
I forgot about that.
Damn, when this dude speaks and music plays, I'm like,
comes with his own soundtrack.
Yo, I wish all of us had a theme song when we talk.
Ignore the sounds in the background. Just
nah, it's cool, bro. You got jazz. Can mine be trap
music?
Like
fucking Luke Cage up in here, dude.
I want mine to be some trap music that starts playing. I start talking.
Wow. Anyway, shoot, I lost my train of thought. Anyway, so yeah, like as soon as the first 5 minutes of the movie just hit, immediately just set the tone of the movie. I'm like, wow, that's just I can't believe this.
Yeah.
And like, I knew there were L's gonna be taken in this movie, but I didn't know like how many and who. And some deaths were unexpected to me. The action was great. Like this movie felt like an actual comic book event, like just going on. That's how much I just enjoyed this movie. And the same thing was just going through. I'm like, where do we go from here? That's the same thing I felt with The Last Jedi. Like, where do we go? I mean, like, what happens next? So that's how awesome this movie was, and that's all I gotta say.
Hey, Jonathan, don't forget to tip your waiter, though. You know, I know you have to. Thanks for taking the time to join the stream from the Jazz Cafe, La La Land here. You know,
yo, we need the story real quick, bro. Do you have a roommate who he needs to play his sax now?
That's my brother. So just
okay.
It could be worse. It could be worse, though. It actually sounds pretty damn good. I kind of like it. It's like jazz chill hour now. Infinity War.
Man, it's just like Bill Clinton next door playing saxophone. It's like that's how we do it here. I came prepared. Who'd you bring?
Can he just play some of the Avengers theme song instead?
I don't know if he can. I don't know.
He's so Simpson.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, so, but
all right, Sam. Yeah, next.
What was the question, Sam?
No, man. Nah, I've lost it. I've lost.
And do we have you have an agenda of things like that you have written down, or are we just going?
Yeah. What's the next question?
I actually did wanted to go into what was your favorite eye-opening moment. Like we brought up different moments where the crowd like legit clapped. The most notable definitely is when Cap showed up.
I got mine.
When the real extremist armor started having like magical ramifications with Tony going up against Thanos. When Thor came back. I mean, but to me, honestly, like Thor in this movie was the best Thor I've ever seen in all these MCU films.
That armor didn't make no sense.
Like, I thought that the way that they handled Thor as a character and just how they use him as a real god for once, rivaled even Ragnarok, because like with this one, like there was like real depth to his character. When he was talking with the Guardians of the Galaxy, yes, it was some funny moments, but there was a real seriousness about the weight behind who he is. And I was just curious, what was one of your like standout moments or standout characters that you want to kind of bring up?
Can I say something on that Thor moment? Because that Thor moment really is what ties together the last 10 years of movies, right? Because think about where Thor was when we meet him at the very first movie and where he is now. Like, of all the characters, he kind of ties together the entire progression of a character from being this punk, basically, to selfless and intelligent in the way he's acting and really reaching his full power as we know him in the comics.
Yeah.
Totally. No, I agree with that. Like, you literally see this full reigniting a dying star and shit. Like, you literally see him like in space grabbing shit. And I'm like, I don't remember him being this goddamn strong, but he finally is. Yeah.
And and he did start out like as like just a young punk. Like, I remember that first movie, like he was just swinging the hammer and smiling like he was in like a damn Trident commercial. And then like all of a sudden now it's like, yo, he is the god of thunder. Like, he represented in this movie, like he was the big gun. Like,
I agree.
My favorite hero in this movie was Thor, and that actually surprised me. I was expecting it to be Cap or maybe Iron Man or Spidey, but it was actually Thor. By far was my favorite hero. He was the beast.
It is interesting because I read a report a few weeks ago about how why is Thor so underpowered in the MCU, and I mean they basically brought it up. They're like, look, like if you brought in comics Thor, Avengers 1, he would have crushed Loki like in a second and taken down the entire Chitauri army all by himself. So there's no plot, there's no story after that. But since they finally had someone bigger and badder, Thanos, that they could finally level up, give Thor that ultra instinct and shit, and give him a proper challenge. And with Hulk, it actually gave Hulk an interesting story as well. For me, it was Thor and Doctor Strange. Actually, I felt like Thor, Doctor Strange, it was their best movies this entire. Like, I actually 100%. Don't really. I'm a bit bored with the Doctor Strange movie. I don't know what it is, but I think I just didn't really. I'm not really into Doctor Strange or Homecoming.
I am now
as much as everybody else is. I think just generally because I kind of know where it needs to go, where the story needs to go. So I'm not that big on it. So that being said, for me, I felt like Doctor Strange really stood out in Ragnarok, but he that was his movie for a good amount of that time in Infinity War. And same thing with Thor. We actually saw a good amount of acting chops. If you look closely, you actually see Thor crying, like tearing up when talking about his family. Like, all his family and friends are dead and he has nothing really else to live for. So
that was one of my favorite conversations, actually, the movie. It was like, that was one of one of the moments that was emotional for me, when you were realizing Thor literally lost everybody. And maybe, I think Sif might be out there, right? Sif might be alive. And
I think she's it. Yeah.
And Valkyrie, and I guess and Valkyrie and maybe some of the Valkyrie, but like literally, like this dude literally lost everybody. Loki was, and then obviously all the Asgardians that just got fucking, bum rushed.
Like, what's her name? She was dead on the ship. Didn't they show her?
No,
Sif was.
They didn't.
I don't know.
Sif.
Valkyrie.
Yeah, Valkyrie.
Shit, she was on the ship though, right?
Yeah.
No. Okay, so I can explain that one because the first time around I didn't catch it, but Thanos was Thanos is all about executing half the people, And we thought, okay, all the Asgardians are on that ship, but Thor briefly mentions the fact that when he's talking to Gamora, he's like, your father killed half my people. And I'm like, oh shit, wait a second. So my explanation for that, so my explanation for that one is the fact that, you know how we see flashback young Gamora and young Thanos talking, and they're separating the people. My thought process is the fact that Infinity War starts after they separate half the people, and they executed the other half, and Infinity War starts right there because Ebony Maw is already giving his speech about even in death you will become children of Thanos, like that. So he basically executed that half, but the other half got somewhere else already.
I was about to say, because he blew up the whole ship after that.
Right. I don't know. Yeah, what happened, but half of the Asgardians are somewhere. I just don't know where they are.
I'm thinking we're probably gonna get the Xandar story, and then maybe that story, and maybe in like a comic book prequel shit like that.
Perhaps. I read the prelude to Infinity War, and they're bringing it out more gradually. So I think by the end of this year, we'll get more story on what happened with Xandar and what happened with the Asgardians. But the first two comics were like just kind of basically show Cap running around with Black Widow and Falcon and Vision and Scarlet Witch having freaky sex and shit. So, like, for real.
Oh man.
So do you think that when Thanos snapped his finger, another half of Asgardians got killed? Because that's a little unfair. It's a little unfair. That's all I'm saying.
Like, wait a minute. That's
wow. Wow, that's a good question.
Probably.
You know, we also have to consider
Glenn Close comes out like, I made it. Ah, fuck. Like,
we also have to consider the fact that not every race gets cut in half, because, you know, if you ever watch The Leftovers, I don't know if you guys ever watched that, which is similar like to this. Like, I'm not gonna give spoilers to it, but maybe if half the people in the universe die, there might be some civilizations that nobody gets killed, and then another civilization that everybody dies, right? Or is it really that? Who knows? You know what I mean?
I don't know.
I honestly thought about that because I laughed to myself like that. That end credit scene when Samuel Jackson pulls out a beeper and like
it's an interstellar beeper.
Marvel. I was about to laugh. I'm like, yo, what if she died with the snap? Like, like nobody got that beat. Like, no one's on the other end. Like, I laughed. That was one of the only things I was thinking. I'm like, yeah, sorry, dog.
Yeah. Here's the only problem I'm gonna have. The biggest problem I have with the future of the next two movies is, like, I know each movie, like, people are gonna be trying to tune in, hoping that they'll get some sort of continuation from Infinity War, but nah, man, because they're all taking place before Infinity War. Even they advertise smart by Disney, smart by Marvel, but they even put out a little trailer a few hours ago saying where were Ant-Man and the Wasp, and I thought that was kind of interesting. The new trailer comes out tomorrow. But the only problem I'm gonna have, and it's great fucking marketing by Marvel, but it's really going to be annoying for me, is the fact that I'm going to be sitting through that entire movie, Ant-Man and the Wasp, waiting for something, and we probably will only get a in-credit scene of Michael Douglas fading into dust, basically.
That's a fact. I believe the same thing.
It's the problem with a movie like this is that it casts a long shadow over everything else, and now everything else has to deal with it until the next movie hits.
Yeah, right.
Even
you're right,
because the Netflix shows even talk about the incident, which was the big New York attack. Are they going to, like, how do they deal with this show? Is they just ignore it or not?
I honestly hope they do the dust to dust situation, because honestly speaking, I feel like some of those Netflix shows should not have been created. It's like, I didn't even start Jessica Jones season 2. I just don't feel like it. Like,
I still haven't watched. Yeah, I don't care. I haven't started it either.
It's just I know Feige and homie got into a battle, but yo, it's been 10 years, man. You need to patch that shit up and give us more of a reason to watch those shows, because they're not connected at all. It's
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and all the rest of them too. But so this is one thing I guess I'll bring up, and a lot of people think it as negatives. The character motivations that happen in this movie. There's a lot of people that make stupid emotional decisions, and
Okay.
I'll list off a few of them.
I have some thoughts here. Some thoughts here.
I'm just gonna list off a few of them, and then
We all
I'll
about
let
to
you
trash
guys.
Pratt. We all about to trash Star-Lord.
Y'all can
No,
comment
I
on them
want to talk about that.
on the way that you want to. Okay, I'm just gonna bring up a few different ones. One of the ones was Loki's death. Loki, I don't know what Loki thought he was gonna do. He'd already failed Thanos already once. He killed most of the Asgardians, and he came up to this man with the knife. That's one. The fact that I'm not gonna make my comments on it, but the fact that Bruce couldn't get Hulk out because Hulk was ultimately scared. He was not even apparent even throughout the whole entire movie. The fact that Doctor Strange, yes, he saw millions of different possibilities, and one of them worked, but he failed to actually tell Tony why. I have a comment on that one. I think I know exactly why. But he didn't tell Tony, well, I'm going to poof away and this is the end game. You know what I'm saying? He didn't say anything. Star-Lord, yeah, it's kind of blatantly obvious what Star-Lord did. Out of emotion, he goes and attacks Thanos when they had him down and about to take the gauntlet out. And then, that's pretty much all the different character motivations that a lot of people have a lot of indiscrepancies about and problems about. But I'm just curious which one of those you guys want to talk about, which one bothered you the most. Aside from like characters not getting a lot of screen time, like a lot of people were like, I want Black Panther to have more screen time, I want Cat to have more screen time. This was not
That's always
this
gonna
wasn't
happen
their
with a
movie.
like
This was Thanos' movie. This was his reckoning.
I got two I want to talk about big time.
So go for it, whichever one you want to go to.
I'm like roaring. I'm like, let's do this. Let's do this.
I can be quick about mine. I'll be really
all right. Go ahead.
I'll be really quick about mine because there's only one that stood out for me as kind of weird was Loki. That's it. Everybody else, it's just plot derivative. It needed the plot to happen this way. It's the same thing of like saying, why didn't Doctor Strange, why didn't anybody just try to cut off Thanos's arm?
Yeah, exactly.
Like that would have get that, like we were making a joke about that. Like, if that Fox deal went a little earlier, they could have got a Wolverine in there, slice off the arm, and that's it.
No, that's a good reason. There's a good reason. If he slices off, he probably saw the possibility of him slicing off that arm, and that possibility leads to Thanos winning.
What?
I don't know.
So Doctor Strange saw all the different possibilities, right? So he's looking at all the possibilities, and there's only one way to win. One of the possibilities he probably looked at was slicing off Thanos' arm for the Infinity Gauntlet.
Right.
And in that possibility, Thanos still wins somehow.
Well, that's the one I was going to talk about. Like, on what Sam was saying about why didn't he just tell Tony? Because maybe one of the possibilities was him telling Tony, and shit went awry. Because maybe
the problem
is
that's not the only one I want to talk about was Doctor Strange. Because I'm a big fan of mathematics. That's like an if and only if statement. Like, you know what I mean?
Okay, so for me, the only problem I had was with Loki, because I was like, are you really about to pull this shit? Even when he came out like out the corner from the bathroom or something, I'm like, is that really Loki, or like, is this another version of Loki? Shapeshifter Loki? Like, because one, he didn't turn blue, and so it got me thinking, especially with my friend who was like crying up a storm after that movie. Like, does that mean Ragnarok version of Loki, that when he Dark World Loki, he just did the blue effect to try to sell it more, or so when Loki really dies? Like, that shit had me all thinking, was like, because it just seems so out of character, or so weird for Loki to even try to do that. And so my thought is that the actual Loki escaped on some fucking pod or some shit like that and just used some crazy magic to, like, I don't know. So that's the only one that stands out for me as kind of really out of character. Like, come on now, you ain't about to get Thanos. I think Loki's dead, because I don't think they can afford to do, because they're gonna bring everybody back, and if they bring some of the people who got killed before the snapback, it's just like, wow, can anybody really die in these fucking films? Right, exactly.
Agree.
I just think they have to have some hard kills, like, you know what I mean?
Especially a character where they literally say resurrection. No resurrection.
No
this
resurrections
time.
for you this time.
Oh yeah.
He didn't turn blue.
That let people know right there.
Oh yeah, totally.
Right there, man. Like,
So the two I want to talk about is Chris Pratt. Well, is sorry, is
Close the music.
Star-Lord. Sorry, confusing. It's Star-Lord. So I think that Star-Lord, because he gets all emotional in that moment and doesn't help pull off the gauntlet. I think the problem in that moment, and this is one of my few nitpicks of the movie, is that Chris Pratt did not pull off the acting in that moment. I don't think he looked as emotional as he needed to look in that moment to look like he just like totally lost control. He still looked like he was aware of what was going on in his surroundings. And because of that, it didn't quite pull off that moment in the same way it could have if he like truly like felt like he was almost like raging out, like emotionally losing control.
My problem with that scene, it wasn't with the acting, it was with the writing. So what they needed in that moment, I guess they felt, was that they needed a moment of suspense where they're getting the glove off and then they don't. I feel like then they didn't need to choose that way to happen. Maybe they could have I don't know, they could have wrote it a different way where we don't fucking hate Star-Lord now for making like, what are you doing, dumbass? Get the glove off and then beat him up for your girlfriend. You know what I mean? So I felt like they could have just wrote that better. You know,
that's fair.
I don't.
You could have had Doctor Strange take off the arm, and you'd be like, "Oh my gosh, it's over." And then Thanos somehow like grabs the gauntlet, reattaches, and beats them all down.
And that's what makes me just think that like Strange knew all this had to happen this exact specific way.
I think
because like all these guys hanging around him, and none of them were like, "Yo, Star-Lord, chill." Like not a single one of them.
Right.
And so, yeah, that makes me think that like Strange, like even when he gave him the rock, like every single plan, every single part was what he saw in one of those 14 million views. And he's like, all right, we got to run it. This is the only way.
And they go over the top to establish that Strange has no care for Tony, like no care. And then you see him saving him. So you know he is just playing out the script as he saw it. To win.
And the way he talks, when like I really realized the third time around was like when when the last thing he says to Tony, he was like, Tony. He doesn't say it like Tony. He's just like Tony, like not lecturing, like kind of the way a teacher or a parent kind of talks to you, like. Tony,
kind of exactly what my father talks to me. Yeah,
exactly. I just imagine Doctor Strange sounds like that all the time, even when I'm reading the comics. Honestly,
yeah, no, he did it really well. So, yeah.
Oh yeah.
For me, I could say probably the nitpicky moment was Hulk not having enough action that he was supposed to be. Like, they don't sent Hulk running with his tail tied behind his legs. That pretty much Hulk was just gone for the rest of the movie. And I guess what really came to my mind is this just popped into my brain with Banner being in the Hulkbuster suit. I just picture with Aldrich Killian saying to Tony like, "What, you're stuck cooking a little turtle shell?" I'm like, oh my gosh, like Hulk is not coming back after this one no more. I'm like, bruh, this is like, because you got the Hulk as the strongest character there is in the Marvel universe, turn tail and run
not
and
anymore.
never to come back. I'm like, Hulk, you're better than this. Get out of there. I'm like, what happened to you? So that's one thing that I could say that bugged me. What I would say, kind of with the Doctor Strange thing, like how we said there was multiple scenarios on how they lose, but there's one that we actually win, and we never really got to see how they would win that. And so yeah, that kind of bugged me just a little bit.
But I feel that we're seeing it now. And that's the thing, like anybody that sees a lot of time travel movies, like you can't tell the future, because if you tell them what happens in the future, then they're going to try to play it out, and you're going to end up changing the future. That's why Doctor Strange didn't say anything to Tony, because Tony, especially being Tony, would try to do the exact opposite of what he was told to do, and it just doesn't work that way. That's one of those like time travel 101 things.
He'd probably try and figure out a way to do it with less cost or something.
Exactly, yeah.
I put an arc reactor in it.
I thought Hawk was amazing. I really liked Hawk because ultimately, like, Hawk is this manifestation of like Banner getting beat as a kid, right, by his dad. And so he's just a big like 7-year-old bully, basically, is what the Hawk is. And what happens to a 7-year-old bully when he gets beat down is exactly how the Hawk was acting in that movie. So I just felt like it added even more than Thor Ragnarok. It added another layer of character to Hawk. So I don't know about people. There's a lot of people who are hating on the fact that Hawk acted that way though.
You know, the only
I was one of those people. I didn't. Now I feel a little bit better about it that you just told me that, because I had no clue about this child abuse situation with the Hulk. I don't think most of the people watching it do.
I mean,
And,
it
depends
on which version you're going with. Like the Ang Lee story, yeah, they had that kind of feeling in there. So.
Oh yes, right. Okay. Yeah.
You know, the only problem I had with the Hulk situation was I would have thought Hulk was scared of Thanos, fine, because Thanos was the one that fucked him up, basically. But every time Bruce was telling him, come out, Thanos was nowhere to be seen. So I'm like, Hulk, you can deal with these guys. When Thanos comes, okay, you can be scared. That's fine. But he's nowhere to be seen right now. So what are you scared of? I don't understand.
I just think, like, as a performance anxiety, like, you got to realize that Hulk has never been handled ever. Like, Hulk has never had a big difficulty with most to anybody, and then for the last 2 years he's been his hands have been on the steering wheel. He's been in control. He's been a champion of Scar, and he even beat the shit out of Thor, granted with a little bit of a cheat code, but like, that dude got shocked, dude. That he got fucking shook. That's it.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. This was Rocky post Clubber Lang. Like, Mr. T like beat Rocky down, and Rocky was like, "Yo, I might be done. I don't even know if I want to do this anymore." Like, that's what happened, because because like when he wasn't popping back out, I'm like, all right, there's gonna be a moment, because they put Bruce Banner in that Hulkbuster suit only for him to bust out of it. And
that's what I was hoping for too. Yeah,
I was like, oh man, it's coming. It's about to happen. And it never happened.
But it doesn't happen.
It never happened. And I'm like, yo, Hulk ain't coming back out. Like, Debo snatched his chain. Like, nah. Like, not like, man. Ooh.
You know,
it was so good. I fell in love with the movie first 5 minutes.
Right.
When Thanos was like, come on. Yeah. Let's dance. Let's handle them.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing I wanted to ask you guys, and this is kind of like, so for example.
Wait, before you go, are we moving on?
Go ahead. Let me know when it's.
I just want to say this regarding the Hulk before we move on to whatever you're going to talk about. The one solace with that is that the next movie Hulk is going to be a beast, because they totally nerfed him in this one. So I feel like Hulk is going to have some moments that are going to be.
I don't know.
I think he's going to blame himself. I think it's not even just going to be the fact of like him, like, man, all right, now I get to strut myself. Like, there's ramifications of the fact that he didn't do anything. Like, he was not even apparent in it. And I think that in the next one, like, it's like, man, there's weight behind that. Because he even said, like, him and Banner were like, there's some things that we're going to have to really work out. And all throughout this entire, saga, they've been trying to counterbalance each other. Like, I don't want to be you. Like, I don't need you. I need to be myself. I don't want puny Banner. I want to be myself. And so it's like, now it's going to be this ultimate fusion between the two, because there is no other choice anymore. Like, the game has already been lost. Now what are you going to do to step up? And I think that that's going to be weight later on. But no, that's a good point, Tony. Appreciate it. What were you going to say, Akasan?
All right, so this one goes into something that, as a good half of us are reactors as well as YouTubers and such, and so we get multiple requests, or at least I do, and people get so mad that the fact that I don't react to the TV trailers and the TV spots, and I don't want. But I was watching Infinity War. The trailer, I watched those two trailers almost every day until that movie came out, and I analyzed the music, talked with my students about it. And one of the biggest problems that I actually had is the fact that watching the movie, I'm subconsciously piecing together the movie when I see certain scenes come up. And my first question for you guys is, how do you feel? What do you guys feel about Marvel purposely putting in scenes from the movie that don't ever make it into the movie? They first started doing it around the Age of Ultron, but then they really blatantly have started to do it around Spider-Man Homecoming. Like, even the director came out and said, hey, I just want to let everybody know there's no scene with Spider-Man and Iron Man swinging past the camera like that. And so with Infinity War, the big one for me, which kind of annoyed me, but at the same time, the Wakanda scene where everybody is running in slow motion. When Thanos showed up, I thought that's when we were about to get the Hulk. Hulk was gonna get his shit together, and everywhere I was like, no, wait, we're still gonna get that scene, right? We didn't get that scene for shit. That was done only for the trailer.
I think you can't have it both ways. So you can either, because like I said, a lot of people are judging the movie on external factors, things outside of the movie. And one way to try and mitigate all those external factors is to slip in stuff like that into the trailer. So you can either judge the movie with those kind of external factors, or you can have them put everything directly in the trailer. But it just seems like in this day and age with like social media and people watching the trailers over and over again and people picking apart the trailers, that if a director wants people to truly experience a movie like the way they wanted them to experience it for the first time, they have to pull that kind of stuff off. I've often said what they should do is just show the first like 5 minutes of the movie as the trailer and call it good.
No, this one.
They couldn't have done it with this.
They could have if they had just shown that first bit. Loki dies, everything. Would you have been excited about this movie? Would you have been excited about this movie? I would have been excited about this movie.
Man, you couldn't bring your kids to see that movie after that, man.
Well, that's true. All right. It may have been a little rated R. It may have been a little rated.
Yeah. So here's the question, though. Here's the bigger question I wanted to know is like, do you think that there's a immoral issue with them false advertising? So for example, there are people legitimately that would go to see this movie just for the Hulk.
Yeah,
and yes, they get the Hulk in the first 2 minutes or so, but a good amount of them would be holding out for that final scene because they think he's going to come back. So do you feel like there's like do you feel like there's an immoral issue with them false advertising? And on top of that, do you think the TV spots, because I didn't even watch the fucking TV spots, but so many people were like, yo, Oxen, you got to react to the chant. Dude, you got to watch. Where's your reaction to the chant thing? And even by the thumbnail alone, I could piece together, okay, so right here is where T'Challa's going to start chanting the chant. Oh, wait, this thing where Scarlet Witch is watching these fucking destructal discs come down. She's probably gonna jump down and do whatever that thumbnail was advertising. So do you feel like they're just gonna, or is that's just a sacrifice of the age we live in today?
No, I think that this is actually a, how do I put this? It's a setup. What it is a setup to make the audience perceive that something is one thing and it's something else. Like, I'll give the biggest example is Thor Ragnarok. The first trailer you see Thor Ragnarok, he comes down with the hammer. You see both his eyes illuminating. We never perceived that he was going to lose his eye because of that advertisement, which came out on top for their betterment. But then you brought up, like you said, with Spider-Man, one of the highlight moments of the first trailer for Spider-Man Homecoming was seeing Tony Stark and Spider-Man just flying through together. And we never got that. And I think that what it does is sets up this false expectation of something that could be very meaty. I think even more so than the Hulk, people had an expectation that Black Panther was going to be in this movie a lot more, especially coming off the high of Black Panther. Like, a lot of people were like, they saw that scene with Black Panther and Okoye talking about, like, this isn't just about Wakanda, this is about the world. That wasn't in the movie. Now, it could have been a deleted scene. It could have been like something that they're going to add in for the DVD commentary later on, because they did say that there is like 30 extra minutes, but no matter what, that expectation was already put in our heads. And it's like, even Shuri, like, you're like, all right, people were like, man, Shuri is so smarter than everybody else. She had one scene to prove that, yes, and it was a very impactful scene, but she didn't do anything besides that. And I think that false perception can be very dangerous moving on, because the more people love this, the more expectations are being built up, the more you put yourself in detriment for your product, because people are saying, okay, I came here for this and that's not what I got, versus like you trying to be tricky with it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I think we have to take into account that, you know, especially for the earlier trailers, they're getting hit. These trailer companies are getting handed footage that, and the final cut of the movie isn't out. So edits come later in, where maybe like the footage that, you know, they thought would make the movie that were in those trailers, they get cut out. So I don't think it's always intentional. Like they're not trying to perfect.
That's what happened with Rogue One.
Yeah, like these, you know, they get sent to test audiences, and then all types of shit happens, and then shit gets pulled from the movie for time sometimes, and so I don't think it's always.
That's a good point.
Also,
what I was gonna also just say to piggyback off of that is just the fact that sometimes the trailer is so fucking good it changes the entire movie. Suicide Squad. True. So
But also imagine fast forward 5 years where every single trailer is basically doing this. You'll just start to be like, okay, I don't know what's actually going to be in movies anymore. And the directors are now kind of getting what I think they want out of doing this sort of thing, right? You just start to discount every single trailer.
But I just really wish I know they need a selling point, but like Sam was saying earlier, it's a very dangerous game that they're playing because one of the biggest scenes is that slow motion running scene where I thought everybody was about to assemble, and toward the end of the movie I'm still waiting for that scene to happen, and I'm like, oh fuck. And it kind of sucks because that was one of the strongest scenes for me, on top of baby Gamora, child Gamora taking Thanos's hand. I'm glad that was in the movie, but my other big scene was not in that movie, and it just kind of sometimes it will take it away. I think it takes away something. So I know Thor's Stormbreaker wasn't in there when he puts his but you could obviously see Stormbreaker was edited out from the trailer. Thor just puts his fist up in the air like, what?
Once I heard Stormbreaker, immediately I was thinking, oh, Beta Ray Bill. I was like, is he showing up? I'm like, nah.
Right?
Like, I don't know.
For me, I could say that I ignored as soon as I saw the second trailer, I ignored every single TV spot. I ignored every single interview. I didn't want to see nothing. I just wanted to just go in and see this movie for what it is. And kind of like what you said with the with the Conda scene with Hulk in it, I was like, I kind of was expecting that, but then again, I wasn't, because I didn't have any expectations on what happens when and what scene's gonna be in the trailer is gonna be in the movie. I wasn't like nitpicking what scenes were there. I just was like, I'm just gonna see this movie for what it is. I don't really care.
Fair enough. I think that would like to wrap that one up though. I would just say I think from here on out, I think it is better for us to expect more of the unexpected. Look at the trailer as somewhat the roadmap, the concept artwork, the variant cover, and hopefully we'll get most of that in there. But they just gotta. I personally feel they need to be very careful about that because, I'll never forget with Age of Ultron, there were actual critical scenes. There was an actual golden woman in the bath of the Age of Ultron trailer that never made it into the movie. And I was like, wait, what the fuck? Like,
and now I'm thinking about
it. I don't remember seeing that in the
there's
trailer.
a golden woman taking her clothes off in the bath of the Age of Ultron trailer.
Wow, that must have
slipped. Now I'm thinking about how I gave them the excuse that sometimes shit gets cut from the movie. I have a hard time fucking believing that at any point the Hulk was gonna be in Wakanda. Like, that's a big fucking change to your script. That you know what I mean? Like, so I think they really just were like, yeah, let's just.
I don't know. Originally in Rogue One, everybody lived, so
I don't know. Oh really?
Yeah, but that wasn't the selling point of the trailer. Everybody lives. Go see the movie.
Made it good either, though.
Yeah, I think they just threw Hulk in there. They were like, "Yeah, we got to get the Hulk fans here." So just put it.
How much do you guys? How much do you guys think that the dust to dust scenes changed based on the performance of Homecoming and Black Panther? Do you think any of that changed at all from with the reshoots and such? They're like, you know what? Let's make T'Challa disappear. That'll piss off a bunch of people.
You know what? I don't.
That's a good question.
I don't think they honestly changed. The only reason why I say that is just because of who they strategically actually pinpointed. They strategically picked all the people that represent the newer generation Avengers. They picked out the replacement Captain Americas. They replaced, of course, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, Baby Groot. You know what I'm saying? Like, they picked out people that would last later on versus the people that would sacrifice themselves to change it out. I don't think that ever
yeah,
changed.
yeah.
I thought
And
it was.
Sorry, but Sam, I wanted to jump in on that really quick because I didn't actually really catch that until so one of the Red Dread Nation people mentioned it earlier this morning, and he's like, folks seem not to be catching on. Those characters who died in Infinity War are all coming back, but more importantly, most of the characters currently still living are very likely going to end up permanently dying. The sad truth of is those left are necessary to ultimately defeat Thanos and will end up sacrificing themselves to succeed and bring everyone else back to life. Stark, Nebula, Thor, Rogers, Banner, Rocket, Rhodes, Natasha, and some of the Wakandans. My guess is that most of them or all of them are going to die for reals.
So this makes me think of
that's really some game.
It's really dark.
I think that's
exactly. Think of Kathleen Kennedy when she took over Star Wars originally, and she kind of said one of the things they liked about Star Wars over Marvel was that with every trilogy they could reinvent and bring new blood and bring new characters in, and that with Marvel they're kind of like stuck with like Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man, right? So I think they have solved that riddle possibly here by like every 10 years we have a big event movie and then we reset a bit with new actors. Sorry, Keaton. I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
You're good. No,
that was pretty good. That's a pretty good analogy for it. I never really thought of it that way.
I don't think like when they did the ashes to ashes scene in the movie, I think what messed it up was the number of people that they killed. Like, I understand that it was half the people around the world, but I think it took away from the fact that they killed off so many people because it let people know, all right, this isn't gonna stick. Like, if they had killed off, if Spider-Man had went ashes to ashes, I would have been like, oh, damn, they might be about to bring in Miles Morales now. Or if they had just killed Vision, I would have been like, oh man, that sucks. But they killed off so many people. And I'm like, when T'Challa disappeared, I'm like, okay, T'Challa's not dead. The second Captain America isn't dead. The third Captain America isn't dead. Like, and it just like, they kept going on and on with it. And I'm like, none of this is gonna stick. It didn't.
You could argue the fact that, look, you could have a Spider-Man movie with Miles Morales. You could have well, okay, you're still gonna have the original America movie, but
you can still do that.
I mean, they could even make Shuri a Black Panther. I mean,
like you can bring X-Men into the universe after this.
Yeah.
But like when they wrote that scene, what I felt like happened, where they were like, hey, let's kill off everyone that still has movies left on their contract.
Yeah. Well, see, that's where we start getting into this dangerous side of things. For us is we are informed with all this from the entertainment lingo, from the comic book lingo. We know that some people are unkillable, which takes away from the value for us because we want to be surprised. But people that are oblivious to it, like the regular consumers that aren't some kind of way like Marvel savvy or like book savvy, they would look at us like, dang, they just killed Spider-Man. And for them, there's no return for it. And I mean, I get what you're saying, and I feel the same that way. There's no surprise for me. But I can tell you there are people out there legit think that these characters are gone.
But I would also disagree that there's no surprise for you because you don't know 100% what exactly is going to happen in Avengers 4. If that was the case, nobody would be tuning in for the first trailer of A4 when it drops in October or whatever.
Right.
So we don't know exactly. We have speculation, and how many of those speculations were wrong about Heimdall having the Soul Stone or what have you not, or Wakanda having the Soul Stone. You know, just because we've read a book doesn't necessarily mean we have the Bible or the roadmap to how it's going to happen. So, and this isn't really directed at Sam, but it's more or less directed at some of these people attacking other fans for being upset or crying during a movie because it's like, well, if you read the comic, so the fuck what? I read the comic 10 years ago too. That doesn't mean it exactly played out the same way. Spider-Man didn't disappear in the comic.
You're only cheating yourself, honestly. You're cheating yourself of the emotional impact.
You don't know exactly how it's going to happen. And personally, I don't feel like we've had a good 10 years of Marvel movies and fairly good unpredictable type of movies that we don't know exactly how it's going to work out in A4 if who's coming back, who's not. So
That's true.
I mean,
and I think one other thing I'll say is I think what it was for me too was the ashes scene didn't, like, to me it wasn't very dramatic. It was like, oh, they just withered away into nothing, but it didn't feel like a death. Like Peter's felt a little bit more simply because it was like, oh, look how young he is, and it has to last an extra 15 seconds. But the other ones, it didn't feel, I don't know, to me it just didn't feel like death happening.
Yeah, I mean,
I agree. I agree as a comic fan. Yeah.
I mean, I think that the other thing I was going to tag on is that not even so much even the comic side thing. Yeah, that is a big factor, but like we know the movie side of things. We know who is contractually obligated to do other movies. You know what I'm trying to say? Like Chadwick Boseman is going to make another Black Panther movie, and I think that kind of takes it away for us because we're like, okay, these people are lined up, like Tom Holland is lined up to make another Spider-Man this coming up. So that's what I mean by, like, that's unavoidable.
Exactly.
Perception.
Okay, but at the same time, Ben Affleck is also contracted to Batman movies, but he wants out too. So
yeah, a lot of the people are telling me they didn't like this movie keep raising that exact point, which I don't think is fair to this movie.
No, yeah, I don't think so at all. It's not. Just because somebody's contracted to a movie, they could show up in a flashback. You know, Anthony Hopkins is contracted to movies. He fucking pieced out in the first 5 minutes of Ragnarok. So,
yeah, but my main reason why I brought that up is that I know that, and I can presume that, but other people have no idea. Like, other people don't know, like, whether Andrew Garfield's coming back as Spider-Man or if Tom Holland is going to be in Venom. They have no freaking clue. All they know is that Spider-Man died for them. Now, I think that the second time I watched it, I was like sitting there watching people poof away. I was like, daggone, this is like the end times going on. Like, people getting raptured. Like, I was legit, like, when people just vanished, like, I know it didn't have much impact for you, Keaton, but, like, when I was watching it, I was like, it just like, yo. And it's kind of like I
thought about the Left Behind series. I really did in that last scene.
Oh, they raptured.
But nah. I mean, I think that was a hit or miss with some people just from their perception of what they assumed and what they didn't assume. And I think that they kind of missed the point that no matter what, in this film, these characters died. Now, how they died, way they died, could they get brought back? They still did die. But anyway, I'm sorry, Michael.
No, you're good.
Shout outs to Failwell joining the chat here.
What is going
Hi, everyone.
on,
Sorry for coming late.
What did you think about Infinity War, bro? What was your highlight moment? What was your emotional moment? And what did you think about the end?
Yeah, I'll definitely make it quick. Just some overall consensus and thoughts of the film. For a really ambitious movie, you know, comprising 10 years worth of content, I thought they did a really good job. Some of my highlights for me was the whole entire Thor arc that they had continuing on from Thor Ragnarok, specifically the scene between him and Rocket, just sort of getting into the psyche of the character for a second. Because if you really look at it, things were going really bad for the guy. He just lost his brother, who he had obviously obvious problems with, but he just had his family die when he was going back and forth with Star-Lord. So I love that sort of one-to-one moment between him and Rocket. And then obviously him coming back with, you know, the new hammer. I thought that was really awesome. And then he got to finally show his, you know, power, I guess. We've seen him in the other movies, but this one I thought he really got to display that. I thought Thanos was great. I thought they did a really, really good job at fleshing him out and making him a sort of formidable villain that also wins. I like how this movie ends with the heroes actually not winning. So that's some of the highlights for me. The ending, I would say, even though, like, you know, like we've read the comics and, you know, we're in the know, as you mentioned, it still was an impact. Like, what do you mean Black Panther's gone? Like, what do you mean? Like, my audience was shitting bricks, and even myself, I'm like, you're really gonna introduce such a big black hero and just off him in the first movie like that when all of them are together?
Yep.
So while I did sort of feel like, okay, they're not actually dead, they're totally just going to come back in some capacity, I still found it to be effective, like you mentioned, for non-audience members,
right.
non-people who aren't informed.
And with the connection between Felwell and myself being huge Walking Dead fans, I'll take it to another level. Again, we know what's going on, but look, when Glenn died, sorry, spoiler. When, I just realized that.
Bring up the most saddest death
What?
no one wanted to remember.
My point. Look, when people legitimately swore off The Walking Dead, and ever since that moment happened, The Walking Dead, as good as I like the show, it has been declining in ratings, and because people have been kind of turned off and people swore off that show. So like, while the rest of us have the patience to sit here and analyze the movie for a whole year, there's a good amount of people that would probably be there's people I know that have never watched Homecoming or Amazing Spider-Man because Tobey Maguire isn't Spider-Man, and because they can't understand why there is a new Spider-Man like that. So when changes happen, not everybody jumps on board for that. So I still believe this is a very risky move for Marvel, bringing Black Panther, taking out their two biggest guys right now.
No, I think that's a really good point. And I mean, did anybody at one point think that they were going to just kill Thanos and not snap the fingers? Like, I was just curious. Like, did any of you guys ever?
Okay, first of all, I knew exactly there's no way they're gonna kill Thanos. Especially, this is like I said, this is a Thanos movie. This is a manhunt movie for the Infinity Gems. That's what this whole movie was. I know darn well for sure that Thanos was not gonna get taking the L in this movie. This is his moment to shine. This is what we were building up to for the last 10 years. So I didn't know what the ending was gonna be like. I was hoping for him to actually get all the gems, which he did. I just didn't know how it was gonna end off. Like, immediately, as soon as he just snaps his fingers, stuff just happens. And Thor's asking what did you do? What did you do? I was like, I have no idea what just happened.
I mean,
I low-key thought he was gonna die at the end or something like that, to be honest, because the director said that it's definitely two separate movies, not part one, part two, which we realize now was a lie. So me going into it, I'm like, okay, this is a fairly long film, so what sort of MacGuffin or what's gonna happen here that gives the Avengers the upper hand? Because I'm so used to the heroes winning. So when he just snapped his fingers and said, "No, I'm going to my porch," he actually did it. He did what he wanted to do, and that was it, right? So I rated it on his end.
I mean, I think going in, I knew it was going to be a two-part movie, regardless of the title. I think the Infinity Gauntlet tale is they made it clear that it's going to span two movies. And knowing the story itself, I called it a long time ago that this storytelling wise, the best way to do it would be to end this with the snap. I knew that for some reason. You know what I mean? If you think about it, that's the best way to Empire Strikes Back this shit. You know what I mean? It's snap it, and then we're gonna get into the next one. So I knew that going in, but no, there's no way I thought Thanos was gonna die in the first one.
And it legitimately, after that snap, it legitimately, you guys already mentioned it, the rapture and shit. They legitimately panned. I was still fresh in my head from yesterday, but there's no music. All you can hear is wind, and you don't even hear fucking birds or they're it's fucking creepy. Awesome. That is some creepy shit. And then they they go to black and start playing the Reigns of Castamere and shit. You're like, yo, I legit looked at my girl and she looked at me and I'm like, did they fucking just Game of Thrones our ass?
That's a great point, Akasan, because one of my favorite lines of the movie too was when you realize oh shit, everyone's actually gone, and then it goes to Captain America and you think he might be the optimistic one, there might be another game plan, and he just says, oh god.
Oh my, yeah.
You know what I really liked about that ending too was when after everything is done, just to pour salt in the wound to the audience, they fucking disappear. They disappear the fucking title of the movie too.
Yeah, I saw that the second time.
They were like, "Yo, fuck y'all too." Look,
I was hoping they were gonna take it even further and not have an end credit scene, nothing.
That would fucked up.
You know what they could have? Honestly, they could have done without the Captain Marvel thing. Because
I was hoping they were just gonna end it, and people were gonna be like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah.
What?
That was some dark shit, dude. That I legitimately thought at the end of the credits we were gonna hear the HBO thing, boom, just come up.
I wanted to mention why I think that one of maybe possibly why they would have killed Black Panther at the end. It's just to prevent Black Panther fatigue. You know, we just came off of February having Black Panther. Maybe they don't want to just. That's what I was thinking, maybe, and maybe that's why they didn't have him so much in this movie, like just not to, you know what I mean, not to saturate his face time on the screen right now, and give him a break for the next movie.
I feel that.
Would you guys prefer them to go a few years without bringing back Black Panther, Spider-Man, and like I'm saying, Miles Morales, Shuri as Black Panther, like actually try to run a movie without the rest of those main dudes?
I think it'll make it more impactful when they return. I think it'll make it.
Well, that's a decent point you make, because have you guys heard the rumored story for Avengers 4?
It says it's gonna be maybe 5 years in the future, right?
Yeah, something like along the lines of that, where it's 5 years in the future, right? So, like August, I mentioned, like maybe in that 5 years when they're just trying to, get a new set of Avengers together with what they have, maybe they do have that. Maybe in the timeline when we kick off Avengers 4 and they come back, you just see Shuri as the Black Panther. You see, Miles is taking up the Spider-Man mantle, and the audience are going to be like, "What the fuck is going on?" But I think it'd be interesting if they did that.
I'd be down for. I'd be kind of curious for something like that to happen, but I'm not sure. It would be interesting.
So connecting to the ending, though, when I watched the movie a second time, I really sort of had an emphasis on the scenes where Thanos was in the water and stuff like that, like when in the soul realm or whatever it was. Yeah. Do you think everyone went to there, or something similar?
I think so.
You mean to the Soul Stone?
Yeah.
I think so. I think that's the perfect place to put them.
Wait, you mean they didn't go to heaven?
Hey, shout out again to the Walking Dead connection. Shout outs to I think his name is Aaron for playing Red Skull. I thought that was fucking
great. Yeah. You know what the funniest thing was? I saw the red carpet. I seen the red carpet. I'm like, what are you doing there, bro? Like,
right. I was wondering that too. I'm like, wait a second, huh? So like, what's this dude doing here?
Yeah. So here's a quick question. So let's say everyone who went to the Soul Stone, right? They come back, Avengers 4, they reverse everything, right? What happens to all the people who died as a result of people just being taken out of nowhere? Do they actually die too?
No, they're dead. I think they're dead. I'm thinking maybe. No, I don't know, because Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is supposed to center on Gamora, is supposed to run the lead. Like James Gunn has said, that Star-Lord is taking a back seat to Gamora for Guardians of the Galaxy 3. So I don't know how that's gonna work.
So like somebody was kind of trying to explain that one to me the other day, is the fact that a soul for a soul. So Gamora died. She died for the Soul Stone or whatever, but she's inside the Soul Stone, and she might do similar to the comics, and she'll be the one to take over the Infinity Gauntlet at a later time or something like that. So there's so many theories. Again, going back to that whole deal I was saying is like, congratulations, people that read a book, but there's so many different ways it can go and everything. So I gotta bounce in a second, but nitpicks around the table. Just what's the most ridiculous nitpick that you have about the movie? For me, was why didn't they cut off Thanos's arm? And on top of that, just on a writing perspective, when Steve, after they try to negotiate with the Black Children or the Black Order,
he was talking to Wakanda, and he's like, "Hey, you want to stop this?" Or?
No. So when they were trying to negotiate, and Steve comes back to Bucky, and he's like, "Did they surrender?" And then I would have written, "Do they ever?" Like that, like, because like I was like, who the fuck ever surrenders at the line? Like I would have loved that line right there.
Okay, I think I have one that we didn't touch on, and I don't think Sam mentioned this. What about when Gamora, remember she told Quill, if it comes down to it, kill me if he can get me. Yeah. So what about when she just gives up the Soul Stone for Nebula, she gives up giving Thanos where the Soul Stone is to save Nebula's life. Wasn't that kind of, I don't know, that kind of was an inequality for me, right?
I feel that.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of felt like if she realized that she got kidnapped by him or got taken by him, she would be compromised anyway. Like that's the way I took it. That especially second time watching it, it's like, okay, why did you put all this pressure on Peter, and then you just relent like that. I think that she knew once she was even in her surrogate dad's clutches that she would be compromised anyway.
Yeah.
Like no matter what, like not only she has like a love tie to this crazy man, but that he would make her do what she needed to do to get what he needed. That's the way that I took it.
Connecting to that though, one of my sort of like pet peeves, especially the second time around, was, yo, where the fuck did she learn where the Soul Stone was? She just knew where it was.
There's a lot of shit that we don't understand. Like, how did the Black Order? How did the Black Order find? Where did they know where Vision was and where that Doctor Strange at the time?
They used the Dragon Ball radar.
Yeah, I was so confused. I'm like, Gamora, like that's really interesting. Like, where did you find that Soul Stone? Like,
Gamora's
very specific.
That one makes sense.
Michael. You're right. Yeah, it's very specific. I don't know how.
It was on a side mission. It was on a side mission.
And then how'd you get that recorded too? Like, that's a pretty good document we could have been using.
She went on a side mission with Rose from Last Jedi and went to a casino planet and found out
she won it in a game of 21.
Yeah.
I think my nitpick was the fact that Ebony Maw and Thanos CG was so great, but the rest of the Black Order looked terrible. In comparison, I'm not gonna say that they're terrible, but in comparison, the Ebony Maw and Thanos look real. But the rest of the Black Order, to me, it just kind of was just like so. And it was weird because I was like, you got dope looking characters, but like, why didn't they get as polished as Ebony Maw and Thanos? And yeah, there was a lot more emphasis on Thanos and a lot more close-ups on them. But if they would have looked as good as, you know, both of them, that was just really my only real pet peeve. Other than other things I brought up. I like second time I watched it, like when I was watching that fight scene with
Bruce Banner.
No. When Vision and
Captain America.
I saw that fight scene and I looked at, you know, the guy that was attacking Vision. I was like, he doesn't look as good as Ebony Maw does. Like even in any shading or in even broad daylight, it just didn't. The comparison just was not equal distribution to me.
I noticed that too during the Hulkbuster fight, the end when it was just Bruce and that character, I believe.
Black
I think
Black Thor. Yeah, he didn't look as great there.
But I think what a lot of that also comes down to is like people really don't care about the detail. You guys do, I know, but like people just subconsciously accept in their like you already said, facial expressions and all that. You don't really need to know the facial expression of that fucking turtle looking dude that's beating the shit out of a giant Iron Man. It's like we just accept that it's going to be two big motherfuckers fighting. That's enough, basically. So
okay, somebody. This is not a nitpick. Can somebody clear up for me? Because I didn't know what were those horde animals? Like was that the equivalent of Thanos owning a pit bull ring and he has released his dogs on like?
I don't know if that was a specific race in the Marvel universe or not. Someone could clarify.
I have no idea what those things are.
What the fuck were they? Where'd they come from? I didn't know what like I didn't know.
I thought it was like I just thought it was the equivalent of basically they need a CG army to basically brutalize so you can like cut people in half and like you just every
action movie.
Yeah. I don't know. That would have been cool if they might have explained it a little bit, but that didn't really bother me all too much. But like, I wonder where they're from. Like, those were like some pretty nasty looking ass beings, though. Like, those actually, when it got to the battle, I was kind of shook. I'm like, they really got to fight a lot of them. Ooh, I don't know about that one.
Yeah, it was weird. Their mouths looked like symbiotes for a second.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like, those things that look like they worse than Chitauri. My gosh.
Oh yeah, facts.
Yeah.
I think one of my pet peeves though probably was like around in the first half of the movie. At points, it kind of felt a little dull and dragged a little bit for me.
Yeah, I kind of felt that too. I'm like,
with the first half of the movie.
Yeah, just like a little bit after the
maybe in the second act, maybe in the second act.
A little, yeah, in the second act, it started to down a little bit. I think that's when Captain America was introduced. I think around then.
That's funny because I felt that kind of it picked up around that time when Captain America was introduced. That was like the only time we got like a very classic Russo brothers directed, grounded fight scene. Everything else was like so out of like so outworldly combat fighting type stuff. So
yeah, it might have been like around that point or like a little bit before, but it just felt a little dull to me. And what did you guys think about the beginning, like the very first scene of the movie?
It set the tone immediately for the movie.
With the ship.
I thought it was great. Yeah.
I felt like I might wanted to have seen Xander because when it started off, I'm like, okay, we just see Thanos standing there.
I mean, I think it was easy enough for us to assume that Thanos fucking pile drive
Body them.
right through, just bodied half of Xandar there. So
Yeah.
you know. All right, guys, I'm gonna have to get on out of here. You guys can keep the party going if you want, but my stream is going to shut down. So Red Dreaded Nation, make sure you guys check out Sam's channel. I will link it later if you want to get the full discussion. Tomorrow, my Golden Week holiday starts in Japan, so that would have actually been a better time to do the stream. But nevertheless, it's okay. It's okay. Akasan will return.
All right, thanks for coming, bro.
Later, Akasan.
Later, dude.
Oh yeah, I forgot. CJ, you're in here. 3 Black Geeks. What's going on, bro?
Hey, what's up?
So I know you're behind, but what did you think about Infinity War? What was your expectation behind it? And what did you think coming out of it?
Yeah, we just finished like a show. It was like 3 hours. So like I just finished. I just finished editing it. Didn't really have to cut out much and stuff. It's actually a really good movie. Thought it was pretty solid. You know, beginning to end and stuff. I mean, I didn't have much nitpicks and stuff, and any nitpicks I did have was like Black Order stuff. But I mean, that's, you know, I didn't really have a big gripe with them. Like I said, they played more like mini bosses and I was fine with that. It is what it is. Yeah, I just thought it was pretty solid. I think the funny thing about the movie that I thought was interesting is that I don't know how many people picked up on like that whole thing was Strange in a Time Stone.
Mm-hmm.
And like that little, like, because the biggest question, and it actually popped up on our show, was like the idea of why did he give the time stone to Thanos? And I'm like, well, if you remember the whole 14 million possibilities, that was one of them. But it also drives home the point that basically Stark is the key to defeating Thanos. And when you have Stark back against the wall, that's a dangerous Stark to have, basically. Right. So yeah, that's that in and of itself is going to be interesting to see how he ends up winning out for him and stuff at this point. So I mean, for all intents and purposes, it looks like there might be some time travel shenanigans going by some of the set photos. I'm only assuming and stuff. But other than that, like I said, I thought it was a pretty solid movie. It went by pretty quick for a 2.5 hour movie.
Yeah. Do you guys think though, in regards to Iron Man, the scene in Civil War where he gets the vision of everybody around him dying? I think it's about Age of Ultron.
Yeah, Age of
Ultron.
Oh yeah.
Age of Ultron. Do you think that's going to happen in the 4th movie?
I mean, I think this was it right here. Like that was like the kind of like variation of it, so to speak. I mean, because this was his fear of like people dying, so it wasn't quite like, oh, they're on the throne room of Thanos.
Yeah, but the only person he cared about.
Remember when they were fighting Thanos, like remember when Stark was just like encountering Thanos for the first time? Thanos was like Stark, I know about you. Like I've been in your head since since the very beginning. I know that you've been predicting this moment. So it kind of was flushed out in a way that we were supposed to see in the Age of Ultron, but it was just like, in a variant way of seeing it.
Yeah, I think that too, especially because it was Joss Whedon too. Like at the end credit scene of that movie, even Kevin Feige and the Russo brothers who are working on this movie that's all about Thanos said, I don't know what the fuck was going on when he said I'll do this myself. So I feel like that might not be 100% translated.
You know what, Ace? I think you might be onto something though, because I find it ironic that throughout this entire movie, Tony and Cap never saw each other.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, by the end of it, they are literally worlds apart. But they are the two people, quintessentially, you don't want to be put in a situation like they're in. Like, when their backs are against the wall, that's where they thrive. Mm-hmm. And I think, ultimately, that vision of the very last thing that Tony did see is, like, you let them die. I think there's going to be a moment kind of like that of self-sacrifice. Probably relating to the Soul Stone in some capacity. So I think Ace, like, there might be something like that, because I think that the embodiment of everybody dying around him was the symbolicism behind this movie. But the next one, I just think it's too ironic that in Age of Ultron, the very last person that Tony sees is Cap. I think that they're going to have that middle ground sacrifice again. And I think the roles might be reversed in some way, shape, or form. Because I think, honestly, like, them telegraphing so much about Pepper and him talking about kids, that by the end of this, even if he gets everybody back, that he's no longer gonna be Iron Man no matter what. I think even if he dies or whatever, if he doesn't die, he's not gonna be Iron Man anymore. And I could see Cap sacrifice himself for the betterment of everybody else because he knows that, you know, Falcon can take care of it as well as Bucky can take care of it. Like they can be the next generation. So I think that that's what's ultimately going to happen by the time in the fourth one. I just think that moment is a specific thing that in this movie they never even converged at all, and I think that's going to play out later on because they're going to need each other.
You mentioned that, Sam. How you said like Cap would be the one to make like the drastic action because literally what just popped into my mind was the Skrull saga from Earth's Mightiest Heroes. How Skrull Captain America was the one that changed everything. You could be onto something. How Cap could be like the key to something else, not Tony. Even though Cap and Tony are like the big heavy hitters of the Avengers, like Cap's in charge, Tony's like second in command. But you might be actually onto something like this. So I could definitely see your point with Cap probably making a certain choice, and then sooner or later, like Cap, you know, who knows, dies or retires, then Tony retires as well. And then they'll pass the mantles on to you know, either you know to Bucky or to Sam, and who knows who Tony might pass on his mantle. Maybe Shuri. Who knows? A lot of people saying Shuri might be the next Iron Man.
Yeah, I agree with that Tony Stark thing. It's like he wants to have a kid, or he's visioning it, whatever it is. And then by the end of the movie, the man is literally like what, light years away from Earth by himself with a robot. If you can come back from that. If I was Iron Man, I wouldn't want to do this shit either. Fuck it. Like, it's too much effort.
I'm like, there's no point in me leaving. I'm like, I can't do anything about this right now.
The interesting part for me is that like, so how everybody like, you know, was grief stricken about what just happened at the end of this movie. When I'm looking at it more as, I'm not worried about those people that just disappeared. The people who are really at stake right now, who are really at risk, are the people who survived, because those deaths, those are the ones who are gonna die next movie. The people from that group, and they're not coming back. That's what's gonna happen. So that's going to be interesting to see how these people who are crying over this shit when they have to deal with what's going to really happen next movie. I think some people might get some deaths, might get some suicide watches.
Yeah, I'm gonna bounce out of here and stuff. I just wanted to jump in real quick and stuff. So.
Nah, that's real cool. Like last thing we're gonna do, CJ, if you want to be the one to tab that out, is what was your ranking from 1 to 10? I know you don't do that. You can do an A, B, or whatever, but. What was your ranking as far as these with the MCU films, and what did you rate it?
I gave it. I actually gave it a 10 out of 10. I actually did like it.
There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong.
In terms of ranking, see, it's interesting to me because I actually had it kind of, sort of, in my top 3, but then I had like, okay, I kind of don't want to do that until Avengers 4 comes out. So right now it's sitting at number 4 right now.
CJ, you are not Sean. CJ is not Sean as hell, because when he came, he was like, "Yeah, it was a pretty solid movie." You know, it was pretty.
Like, because
it's 10 out of 10. I'm like, what the fuck?
Because I was really watching it, right? Because it's like I saw this like 4 times. I saw it 4 times. The one time on bootleg, and the other 3 times I like went to the theater to see it. And like, I was really looking at it and stuff because like on my second viewing, I was really kind of thinking about it from the viewpoint of like somebody that may, in the unlikelihood this ever happens, that may have not seen the other Marvel movies and they're just jumping into this. And what I liked about it was, even if you didn't know anything from about like, say, Civil War, right? There were parts in it that you kind of like understood, okay, that's why the team split. Like when Cap is talking to Ross and stuff, you clearly knew something was up. That's why, you know, they're split. Or like you don't know nothing about the Guardians. Oh, that scene where they're flying in space towards where Thor and them are at, and they're singing along and all that stuff. That's the Guardians and stuff. And you know, Tony and Pepper, you know. So it was like it was doing those little things to where it was basically giving you an idea of who these characters were. And I was like, huh, it's kind of interesting. I didn't catch that the first time around. So it's like every time you catch it, it's like, okay. So all the good things that the movie did and stuff, it overshadowed, like I said, my one little nitpick, which was the Black Order. And I mean, even then, it's like the Black Order did what they had to do. They were generals and stuff. I mean, you just take what you can get and stuff. So it didn't really like hurt it to where it was like, oh man, this sucks. 7 out of 10, you know, or whatever. It was like, oh, 10 out of 10. I actually liked it that much and stuff. And the fact that they were ballsy enough to give you that ending and then just bam, cut the black. And it's like, oh, wow. Wow, you actually did that.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, but like overall, yeah. So it's sitting at number 4. Like I said, when Avengers 4 comes out, then I can probably be like, all right, it might rank a little higher. But yeah, 10 out of 10. I put it at like top 5 easily.
Yeah.
Top 5 MCU.
Yeah, top 5 MCU. Yeah, top
Okay.
5 MCU.
Nah, I appreciate you, Chris, man. Definitely, y'all go and check out Chris, the Three Back Geeks, and go to the description bar below and check them out.
Yeah.
Keaton, I know you got a dip set. You are looking tired as a mug.
Yeah, man.
What is your ranking as far as MCU films, and then what did you rate this one?
I ranked it pretty high as far as MCU films because I appreciate the fact that it had they weren't afraid to kill people. It's been a minute. Like it's like they normally do that, but at the same time they like it's somebody you don't miss. Like no one's still heartbroken for Yondu. But it's and so I ranked it high just because it was like, okay, they're not playing. Like there was a lot of character development. As far as like putting a number scale on it, I really can't because I really do feel like I watched half a movie. Mm-hmm. Like Avengers, like honestly, it was kind of, and it might be one of those things where I look back on it and it was like obviously the best one. But it's like, for example, like Return of the Jedi wasn't my favorite Star Wars movie until I saw, not Return of the Jedi, but Empire Strikes Back wasn't my favorite Star Wars movie until after I saw Return of the Jedi. And so it's one of those things where right now, like it's gonna have a high ranking, but it's really, really hard for me to put like a number on it because I feel like I just press pause and I'm gonna wait a year before I watch the rest of one story. Like it really does feel like it was part one.
I got you. Yeah.
No, I feel you on that. And I appreciate you for coming, Keaton, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna dip out. You guys take it easy. Nice hanging with you guys.
All right, Keaton. Easy, brother.
All right,
Hey, man. Good talking to you.
Have a good night, man.
Yep, you too.
And who wants to go next? What was your rating and ranking for this one?
I can do it. Oh, you want to do it? Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. All right. Gosh, like I said in my review, I gave this movie a 10 out of 10 because, like you said, Sam, like when this movie ended, I felt broken. Like my mind, my body, my spirit, like everything just like felt broken. I walk out of that theater, I'm like what just? I'm like, did that just happen? Like, did that really just happen? I'm like, how? So yeah, I gave this movie a 10 out of 10, straight up perfect score for me. As far as ratings go, I still tie it up with, the first Avengers movie because originally Avengers 1 was number 1 on my list because like that's something that movie just changed the superhero film genre in a whole. This one just like they also went above and beyond with this one. So it's definitely at a tie for number 1 with Infinity War and Avengers. Number 2 still is Black Panther. Number 3 is Winter Soldier. Number 4 is Spider-Man: Homecoming, and number 5 is the first Guardians. So that's my top 5 rank for MCU.
Okay.
All right. I guess I'll go now. I have a funny rating scale that me and a couple of friends of mine on the Struggle Nation server do. So we rate each act like 1, 2, and 3. So I give a 10 to the first act, like a 9 or 9.5 to the second act, and then 10 to the third, which I think rounds off to about a 9.6. So I'm up there, which you can round off to a 10, I guess. It's one of the best. It's besides Dark Knight, I think it's my second favorite superhero movie I've seen. Just out of the pure, it was just fun as fuck, man. It was just Jesus Christ. It's just it's a lot to take in, but yeah. So that's why I put that there. If I rank it, it's obviously my first. It's number 1 for me in the MCU right now. And it's gonna, I'll be honest with myself in 6 months from now and see if it still sits there. But before this, then after that, I got Winter Soldier, which is. It's like a political spy movie, which was the dopest shit I ever saw. Like it was like a political spy movie and a superhero movie, and I was like, all right, so that's number 2, and then Black Panther, and then Ragnarok, and then Avengers. So, but right now this is sitting at number 1. Let's see if it has staying power. You know what I mean? But yeah,
I give it a 10 out of 10 because I feel like as far as MCU movies go, this is so different to what we've seen. Like, I feel like if you think about it, Iron Man in 2008. Let's imagine you're 8 years old watching Iron Man. Over the years, you're now 18 watching this movie. You've grown up with the MCU. This movie felt like a coming of age where it celebrated each movie, each scene. When the Guardians were there for like a Guardians movie, for like you know, when Iron Man was in the scene with Spider-Man, for like Homecoming. So it celebrated each movie as you went through the years. And you know, people like us have been watching since 2008. So we've been there for 10 years watching these characters grow with us. So by the end of the movie, you're like, yo, Spider-Man, Spider-Man, you know, Spider-Man's a bit different, but there's certain characters you're watching, like when Thanos stabbed Iron Man, you're like, yo, I've been watching this guy for 10 years and he's about to die on my screen. Like it felt emotional because you're attached to these characters. Like certain people have grown up with these characters. So it's definitely a 10 out of 10. I would say number one for Marvel movies, yeah. But I would need to wait to see Avengers 4, because I feel that Avengers 4 goes hand in hand with this movie. And if Avengers 4 doesn't top what this movie done, then I think it will bump it down a bit in terms of MCU movie ratings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'm the last one. Yeah, I thought it was a really ambitious movie. I thought a good amount of things worked, but I had another bunch that didn't work as much as I thought it would. In terms of my placement within the MCU, it's probably in my top 10, close to the top 5, but not there yet. I need to watch the second Avengers movie to see how that is. I would give the movie a 7.7 out of 10.
But
ooh,
wait, what you give? I'm sorry, what you say? 7.7?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Wait, where did you rank it as far as the other MCU films?
It's in my top 10, so it's like close to the top 5, probably like at the 6th spot.
Top 10. I list your what is your top 10?
I would have to list it over, but like I know for sure I definitely like the first Guardians.
Okay.
Iron Man 1, Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
I think Ragnarok is probably my number 5 spot.
Okay.
And then that's what I was saying. I was like at the cusp, so like it could be that one extra spot.
Right. I got you. Right.
But there's one more movie I'm trying to think of. I don't know which one it was right now, but
Infinity War. That's it. That's
Winter Soldier.
All right, yeah, Infinity War is in the 5 spot, so that's the top 5.
Yeah.
Nah.
You know, I felt like this movie was missing. You know, in Civil War where they're at the airport and you know it's coming, like the clash between these superheroes, and you're watching this and you're like, yo, this is every superhero, like apart from maybe Thor and Hulk, fighting, like you seeing the power. Like I'm watching Avengers Infinity War. I'm like, I'm waiting for everybody to come to, like, I want every single character there coming to for this guy. And I just feel like
I think they're gonna say that for the second one too, right? Because then the one thing I felt about this movie is they really nerfed a lot of the heroes because they had to.
They did.
But is it gonna count though? Because the Infinity Gauntlet is destroyed. So,
but is it though?
I don't. It looks like it.
Well, he still used it to get away. I think it's messed up, but I think it's still usable. And not just that, there's another mold that was with Peter Dinklage. So I'm not sure if that's something they can reuse or not.
That might be like a threat of the next one or something. Like they have, like Thanos, like let's say he gets bored, he wants to use the gauntlets again, but he can't use the full potential, so he has to go get the other one or some shit. I heard people talking about that too.
Yeah.
So we don't know.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that if the next one isn't named Infinity Gauntlet, it's either way, it's gonna have everybody there, including Ant-Man, including Captain Marvel, and other surprises we probably can't foresee right now. But as far as me, I don't have a rating for it yet. I mean, I honestly right now it's nothing lower than a 9 for me. I really enjoyed this film, man. Like anything that I have fault in would really just be a nitpick. Like honestly, I could be like it's a 9.5, but then like I just love what they did with the film, that they dared to actually do it. You know what I'm saying? Like there are just certain things that I was like, they kept on telegraphing. Gamora was like, oh, he could do this with a snap of his fingers. Oh, he could do this. And I was like, they're not going to do it. Like, they're going to renege. They're going to fall back into this Disney Spectrum, you know, blueprint, you know what I'm saying? And they just kind of like broke people. And I appreciated them for even trying, regardless if it, you know, was the best or the pinnacle. I think that they did something very bold and daring. I have to give them props for that, no matter what. And balancing all these different characters in some way, shape, or form. As far as the ranking is concerned, my number 1 is Winter Soldier, and now I'm tied for number 2 with this movie and Black Panther. Black Panther and this one are number 2. Guardians of the Galaxy 1 is my number 3. Iron Man 1, my number 4, and then number 5 is Avengers 1. Probably Thor Ragnarok would be like number 6, but Winter Soldier still to me is one of the best films, period, they've ever done. But like right now, man, Infinity War is tied with my Black Panther, which is weird, and I still don't know where this is gonna go. I mean, a lot of you guys feel like this is an incomplete film, but I still feel that this is a really great film in general. It's a great time, and the more you watch it, the more you just kind of get stuff from it. But I appreciate all you guys for coming out, man.
No worries. Really thank you for having us.
Shout out to Farewell for 50K, man. Congrats, bro.
Yeah, congrats, bro.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
But yeah, we might do this again for a part 2. There's a lot of people that didn't get to join in that really wanted to do this again. I'm not sure when we're gonna riff on it, but definitely you guys make sure you give me your channel information so I can put it in the description bar below. Anybody that was here, they're already in the description bar below. Everybody, so definitely go and check them out, follow them, subscribe, and if you guys want to talk about your channels or whatever blog spots you have right now, so people can check out your content, I'd like for us to end on that.
Cool. You can so this is Tony. You can check me out on @BroadWizzy, BroadWizzy on Twitter. And then Broadway Tone on Twitch. I'm starting to stream, and I'm a music producer as a trade of my careers. So I'm gonna start doing music production tutorials and stuff on Twitch, which will be fun, but also gaming. Yeah. So guys, come and check me out. He'll have the information down below. It's been great, and I want to know though, is it possible to snap your fingers with a metal gauntlet? Anyway,
I don't even
snap your fingers. They should have that song playing as the backdrop.
Snap your fingers. Someone probably make a meme of that.
Hey. All
right. So yeah, I'm on YouTube on I do a show called Friday Night Death Wish, which is a wrestling show using the game WWE 2K18. What we basically do is a 45-minute show. It's normally bi-weekly, but I'm trying to make a season 2 at the moment. You know, we've got guys like Tony's in it, Akasan. We had an Infinity War Battle Royale. So yeah, it's quite fun to check out. Season 2 is coming soon, but we've got season 1 already, Struggle Mania, like a 2-hour show. So yeah, it's good fun. Friday Night Death Wish. Try and catch it and you know, check it out.
My name is Farewell34. You can check out my YouTube channel. I do a lot of TV show reactions and occasional other stuff like movie reviews and whatnot. You can check me out over on that or on my social media accounts. Twitter and Instagram is Farewell34 as well. Album dropping sometime of the year. Anyway.
And all right, so I am Blackwing2040 on YouTube. It's all together, no caps. I do live comic book reads on my channel. I do reviews. I do DC versus Marvel matchups, voice acting videos, retro wrap-ups, retro talk about old school cartoons, and now I'm just starting to do talk of you know, discussing like tokusatsu shows like, you know, Power Rangers and Super Sentai and Kamen Rider and all that. So I'm starting to branch out to do more new things for my channel. I'm trying to, you know, get back to also doing some other stuff that I haven't done in a while. But yeah, definitely come give the channel a look, and everything nerdy, everything geek that you love, it's stuff that I enjoy as well.
All backed with saxophone music played by your brother, right?
That's actually wrong. That's not a saxophone. That's a trumpet. But
oh, my bad. Trumpet.
It's cool. It's
some brass instrument, all backed by a brass instrument. That's a good niche to have.
Well, you guys, that concludes, I guess, our part 1 of this Infinity War spoiler discussion. We've gone probably 3 hours deep. This has been really dope. Definitely check out all these amazing guys. You all already know what it is. Keep it locked, JVS. We ain't gonna stop. Y'all have a blessed one. All right, peace, y'all.
Peace, guys.